When's the last time you had a pep talk? Pep talk, pep talk.
Yo, when's the last time you had a pep talk? Has it been a minute? That's okay, you're in the right place. I've got you. Welcome to Pep Talk. And today I have the ultimate what if question for you. Now let's go. Yo, welcome to episode 71 of Pep Talk. I'm your host, Coach Jay, and we are the podcast that cheers you on and coaches you up. That's right, everybody needs a cheerleader to tell you how great you are, but you also need a coach to tell you that you still have more potential, more development, that there's more of your life to capture, more of your life to live, more growth to obtain. Yo, there's more. There's more. And I'm so glad that you're here hanging out with us to start your week or whenever you're listening to the podcast on your favorite podcast provider. Hey, please be sure that if you are rocking with the content that we're bringing to you on a weekly basis, drop a review, 5 stars. Let us know what you're thinking. And also, drop a fan mail. Let us know what you think about the episodes so we can continue the conversation. Also, you can reach us at thepeppodcast@gmail.com or send me a message on Instagram at _JBSpeaks. Okay, so let's get into it. I don't want to waste any more time because I have a what if question for you that I think it really should shake you to your core. And if it doesn't, then I don't know what to tell you. Okay, so here's the question. What if you were great, but you never find out how great you are? Oof. And see, today's episode, I'm giving you a pep talk. I'm in full Coach J mode right now. This may not be the typical 20-30 minute episode. I don't know. All right, because I just hit record because I had this topic, this question, honestly, it came to me, and so I want to pose it to you. So I'm going to ask it again. What if you are great, but you never find out just how great you are? Man, what a travesty. What a travesty. What if you are not the next Elon Musk, but you're better? What if you're not the next Bill Gates, but you're better? What if you're not the next James Baldwin, but you're better? What if you're not the next Keanu Reeves? Come on, John Wick, but you're better. I'm not talking about the killing part. I'm talking about the acting part, okay? But what if you're great, but you never know how great you are? And you're like, well, why wouldn't I know how great I am? Because you never move. Because you never take the next right step. I remember I was going to a church, and one of their tenets is that we always try to take the next right step in this life of faith. A lot of times we may say we don't know what the next step is, what the next thing is, and they always said, just take the next right step. That takes it from a macro level that can sometimes be overwhelming, and it zeroes it down to a micro level where we can begin to look at things on a step-by-step basis. Now, I'm not the best micro person. I'm a macro person. I like to see things from an overarching viewpoint, but I need micro people around me. But when this question came to me, what if you never know how great you are because you never take the next step? That really kind of, that hit me differently. And so I wanted to pose it to you this morning because I think that I'm pretty right when I say this, that there are other people who are listening to this podcast who are in that same boat. You're in that same predicament. Maybe you have been in a coaching program for the past 5-6 years, but you've never taken the step to start the very thing that you've been getting coached up on how to do. I'm convinced, man. I'm convinced that there is another level to you, that there is another depth to you, and you're still here on this earth, and you're still breathing. You still wake up every morning with heartbeats in your chest, and those heartbeats are like a drum cadence telling you, if you pay attention, that these are heartbeats that you will never hear again. That very one, we're exhausting heartbeats every day. We're exhausting breaths every day. We're exhausting movements every day, but those movements are not getting us to the point that really tests the greatness that is within us, that really takes the potential energy within us and transforms it into kinetic energy. So many of us are so content living inside of the cocoon, or many of us, we're content to be the caterpillar and not even go into the cocoon. We're afraid to emerge. We won't take the next right step. And so, because we refuse to take the next right step, what happens? What happens? We go through life with a list of regrets. We go through life with a list of what ifs. What if I had done this when I was 20? What if I had done this when I was 30? What if I had done this when I was 40 or 50 or 60? See, this is a timeless question. If you're still alive right now, this question, it still applies to you. What if you were great, but you will never know how great you are because you refuse to take the next right step? You refuse to move. You refuse to move. And so I want to use just kind of as a window. I want to use my oldest daughter. I'll talk about her a lot on the podcast, but I want to talk about her just for a second. So she's always wanted to be a dancer, right? And so she goes to school, she goes to college, and she auditions for the dance program at her school for 3 times. 3 times. And each time they don't let her in. They don't give any type of reason for it. I think it's dumb. They don't give any type of reason or feedback for it. They just say either you're in or you're not in. I think it's dumb. I think you should always provide feedback so that people know where they can improve. On a whim, she applies for a program called Steps on Broadway, which is a prestigious program, a 3-week intensive in New York, and she gets in. What if you don't know how great you are because you won't take the next right step? She took a step. Now, she didn't know if it was the right step. She didn't know if she would get in, but she got in. And now she's enjoyed time in New York, absorbing the artsy vibes in a very nurturing dance environment that has her believing in what dance could be as a part of her life going forward. Now, she doesn't know what that looks like. And I'm not saying that you have to know what the next step looks like, the outcome, but here's what I'm saying, y'all. You cannot just stay stagnant. You can't keep coming up with excuses why you can't do this and why you can't do this. You don't know because you're not moving. You don't know because you're stuck in the paralysis of analysis. You're sitting there. You're like me. Here's what I do. It's my blessing and it's my curse. I will sit and I can go through all of the different permutations of something that I might say or do, but they're just assumptions. They're just theories. I'm hypothesizing all of these different avenues, all of these different multiversal vibrations and shifts that could happen from one thing that I may do, and then I convince myself to not do it. Yo, if that is you, I cannot tell you, oh my gosh, you have to make the next right step. You have to move. And listen, I don't have any notes. I'm just speaking from my heart to you because I believe in how great you are. I believe that God has placed you here for a purpose and for a reason. And so many of us are going to live out our lives and never discover what that purpose is and never discover what that reason is because we just won't take the next step. Who cares if you take the step and you fail from it? Who cares if it doesn't work out? Who cares if people laugh at you? Who cares? The people who laugh at you are the people who are not taking the next step. Because I guarantee you that the people who have taken that next step and the next step and the next step, they know what it's like to step out and just try something just to see if it works. They're not going to laugh at you. They're going to come beside you and support you. And they're going to encourage you to take another step and another step. Listen, man. it is imperative that we do not allow our living to be in vain. Because there are people watching you. And I know it's say that it really doesn't matter how people feel, but listen, that from another perspective, there are people who are watching you to see what you do in your life. Some of them may be haters. Hey, if that's all good, that's fine. But I choose not to focus on the haters. I focus on the people like my students or my children or people that I don't even know who are watching from the sidelines, waiting to jump into the game, but they want to see how I react to the opposing forces that are coming against me. Am I going to allow my negative thoughts or my negative words to affect me when I get in the game? Or am I going to have the mindset that all of life, I'm gathering data? I'm gathering quantitative and qualitative data that's going to help me make the next step. If it is starting the business, you've watched all the YouTubes. You know all the steps to getting an LLC. You have the idea. You have the framework in your head, but it's still sitting there in your notebook. It's still sitting there in your chat GPT. It's still just sitting there. You have the business idea. You have the business plan. You know what the setup looks like. You know what the menu looks like. You know what all of these things look like, but it's still sitting in your notebook. It's still sitting in your head. You haven't even written it down. And so what are you going to do? And when are you going to do it? Because you're not getting any younger. You are not, listen, every day that passes without some kind of motion on your end is a day that you've wasted. And listen, every day may not be a physical motion. It may not be you going to talk to the banker. It may not be you going to look at locations, or it may not be you making a physical attempt at motion. It may just be a movement in your heart that says, I'm going to try, or I'm going to try again. Or it may be a mental step that says, I believe in myself. I can do this. Those motions, the emotional motions, the mental motions, the mindset motions, those can have just as many deep vibrations, deep results, deep outcomes as the physical motions that you might make. Some might even say that they have more. Because before I can physically do something, I have to believe that I can do it. Right? Right. So I have to ask you, as much as you say you believe in yourself, do you really? Do you really? Because just like somebody can say, I can look at your bank account and I can see what you really value and where you really place worth. Maybe I look at your bank account and you may say, I put my worth in my wellness and in my health, but I can look and see that you've been to McDonald's 5 times that week. Okay, the numbers don't lie, right? They can, but you get the gist of what I'm saying. I can look at your actions or your inaction. I can see where you are putting your energy, and I can tell whether or not you believe in your dreams. And I can tell whether or not you're ever going to make the steps that you need to make to do what you've been placed on this earth to do. Are you spending your time binging Netflix? Or are you taking time to pray about the next step? Are you taking time to talk to people who've been there? Are you networking? Are you learning? Like, what are you doing? And it's not just that, because I can look at somebody and they can say, I've watched 1,000 hours of YouTube videos on how to start a business or how to start a coaching program. And you still haven't done it? Oh, no. I'm waiting on the right time. I'm waiting on my coaching framework to be ready. I'm waiting to find some people who are willing to test it out. Okay. Have you, and I'm using myself here. Have you put your coaching plan out there to people yet? No. Then you're playing yourself. I have several permutations of coaching programs in my Google Drive. And at the time when I really wanted to, get the clients and start the coaching programs, guess where those coaching programs stayed? In my Google Drive. Why? Because I was afraid that people were going to look at me and say, what are you doing now? Because they've seen me try a lot of different things. Multi-level marketing, I tried it. A t-shirt company, I tried it. All these different things I've tried. Blogging, I've tried it. YouTube channel, I've tried it. Now podcasting, I've tried it. And I was afraid that people were going to look and say, oh, here's just another thing that he's trying. Just ignore him because it's going to flame out sooner or later. So I never did anything about it. Yo, don't be me. It is time to pull the things from your Google Drive and to put them into motion. Because you will never know how great you are if you never test and see the level and the depth of your greatness. And the level and depth of your greatness and your ability to achieve it and to attain it is going to be dependent on your willingness and your ability to look foolish in front of people and to just do it anyway. It's going to be dependent on your willingness to fight and to battle your own feelings of not being worth it. Your own feelings of this being a horrible idea and doing it anyway. Because again, remember our premise. There are so many people walking around who don't know how great they are because they won't take the next step that will get them into that greatness. And I think the one of the most horrible things in the world is to look back over your life and to see these points, right? These integral junctures in life where we could have made a different decision that really changed where we might have been at this point in life. Right? But we didn't do it. And then there comes the regret. And then comes the guilt. And then comes the shame. But what if? Let's say, just for the purposes of a thought experiment, at the end of your life, you look at all of the different areas that you tried that you just didn't succeed in. At the very least, you would still be better off because you tried them and you learned from them. And you tried it and you have the experience of it. Rather than you sat on it and they were only ever thoughts and scribbles versus blood, sweat, and tears. What if you're great, but you never find out how great you are because you refuse to take the next right step? And I'm going to venture to say this too. What if you don't know if the next step is the right step? Try it anyway. Just try it. Just try it. Because you'll never know if it's right if you don't explore it. I'm not a scientist, but I do believe in the validity of the scientific method. At some point, the hypothesis is great, but you have to conduct the experiment so that you can get the result of the experiment to see if your hypothesis is proven right. I can say all day long, my restaurant idea, my recipes are the bomb, but you don't know if they're the bomb if you never try them out in front of other people. I can say all day that I want to pastor a church. I want to plant a church. But I never make a move to even get into that arena. I'm not talking to people, right? I'm not trying to learn what I can. Y'all. And I don't believe that this is just a question. I believe, y'all, that the Holy Spirit is prompting somebody that you need to make a move. And it's not just any move, it is the move that he's impressed upon you to make. You've dreamed about this move. You keep having thoughts about this next step. You know what the step is. You know what the step is. You know what the step is. But you won't do it. And I made a comment on one of my social medias that people took as kind of controversial, but I stand behind it. That many times we pray about things that God has already told us to do, but we are afraid to do it, so we keep praying under the guise of needing more signs when you're just afraid to do what you've been told to do. Somebody here is just afraid to do what you've been told to do. You're still praying, but I'm here to tell you nothing's going to happen until you make a move. You will never know the depth and the heights that you were created to reach until you make that move. Quit being scared. Be of good courage. Overcome the fear by action. And even if you have to take action before the fear hits, do it. However you have to do it to get it done, I'm here to challenge you on this episode 71, to just do it. Make the next right step. Accept that you're great, but also understand that you need to test and see the level of your greatness. Because otherwise, what are you going to do with your life? We can't play the what if game for the rest of our lives. Our breaths are too precious. Our heartbeats are too precious, and every heartbeat that we have expires another moment of our life that we will never get back. So what are you waiting on? Y'all, I feel this one. I feel it. What are you waiting on? You say you're waiting on everything else, but everything else is waiting on you to make a decision to take the next right step. So I'm here to challenge you. I'm here to dare you on episode 71 of Pep Talk to make the next step, to get moving right now. To get moving right now. When I say this with all the love in me, I say it with all of the love in me. And as I'm talking to you, best believe I'm talking to me even more so. Yo, it's time. It's time. It's time. It's time. And so here's what I want to know. I want you to send me a message, send me a fan mail, send me an email, send me a message on Instagram. What is the next right step that you are going to take? Because I'm not giving you an option. I'm not giving you the option. Quit thinking about it and do it. So what's the next right step that you are going to make? I want to hear from you. I want to hear from you. What's the next right step that you are going to make? I'm going to hold you to it. I'm going to hold you accountable. And I want you to ask me, what's my next right step? Ask me. I'll talk about it. All right? Because we have to quit assuming that we have more time. We have to quit assuming that we have another day. We have to quit assuming that we're owed another hour, y'all. This spirit, this mentality that I have another day, y'all, it has to stop. It has to cease, because procrastination has dug more graves. It's dug more ditches. Because we falsely assumed that we're owed more time than we have. Y'all, for all we know, we only have today. And I don't want to die and have all of my potential in that casket or in that cremation urn with me. To think about that hurts my heart for you and for me, because what has been placed within you is what the world needs. There is somebody in this world who needs what has been implanted within you, that you're too afraid to lose, that you're too afraid to move into, that you're too afraid to accept. And it has to stop. We can't do this anymore. What if you're great, but you never know how great you are because you refuse to take the next right step? Ha. All right, y'all. This has been episode 71 of the Pep Talk podcast. Pep Talk. I'm your host, Coach J, life coach in DFW, and it has been my pleasure to be here with you on to start this week or whenever you listen to this episode. Again, I want to hear from you. What's your next right step? And y'all, send us messages, send us those reviews, put those reviews in wherever you listen. I want to know how this message has impacted you, how this podcast is impacting you, y'all. I love you. You know how we end every episode. Keep it love, keep it light, keep it peppy. Pep Talk. We'll see you next week. Y'all be blessed. Peace.